In 1979, a Belgian civil engineer named Robert Boval was waiting at Heathrow Airport in London for a flight to Sudan to work on a project. While waiting for the plane, he was reading a book titled The Serious Mystery by an author named Robert Temple. The book discussed the beliefs of African tribes known as the Dogon tribes, currently located in Mali. For thousands of years, these tribes have been performing rituals and dances every 50 years that mimic the movement of the Sirius star in the sky. They believed that these rituals would lead to communication with the dead in the sky. Interestingly, Sirius is a binary star, meaning it consists of two stars, not one, known as Sirius A and Sirius B. Sirius B orbits around Sirius A every 50 years. This means that the Dogon tribe was aware of this secret and performed their rituals every 50 years based on this fact. Sirius, or the dog star, is one of the brightest stars and belongs to a group known as the Greater Dog. What's even more strange is that Sirius B was only discovered 150 years ago and cannot be seen with the naked eye. A telescope is required. We couldn't photograph it until 1970. So how did the Dogon know about the movement of this star, which requires astronomical knowledge, when they appear to be a simple and primitive tribe? Here, Robert Temple, the author of the book, expressed his belief that the astronomical information possessed by the Dogon must have been inherited over thousands of years from the ancient Egyptians, and that the secret of the Sirius star should be sought in the history of ancient Egypt. This book prompted Robert Boval on a research journey that took more than 10 years of his life, ultimately leading him to a theory that could rewrite the entire history of Egypt. He concluded that Egypt and its pyramids are a reflection of the sky on Earth. Robert Boval was born in the city of Alexandria, and when he was 12 years old, he moved with his family to London. He graduated as a civil engineer and continued his life there like millions of others. The pyramids occupied a part of his thoughts. Around the 1980s, during a visit to the Egyptian Museum near Tahrir Square, he saw a picture of the pyramids hanging on the wall. Robert stood in front of the picture and kept contemplating it. The picture was taken from an airplane, representing the pyramids from a high perspective about 2 kilometers away. As he stood before the painting, the thought of the three. The first question is, why are there 3 pyramids? For example, why not 2? Why not 4? Or why not 5? It is known from references that the pyramids correspond to the kings of the 4th dynasty, which were built around 2500 BC, and that these 3 pyramids are specifically for the kings Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. However, what raises questions, for instance, is that Khufu had a son named King Jedefre who built his pyramid in the Abu Rawash area, about 10 kilometers away. So why didn't he build his pyramid with them on the Giza plateau? Menkaure also had a son named King Shepseskav, who was also one of the kings of the 4th dynasty. So why didn't he build his tomb with them and instead built his tomb 18 kilometers away in Saqqara? The second question is, why is the 3rd pyramid much smaller than the 1st and 2nd? The 3rd pyramid is 65 meters high, and its volume is about half the size of the 1st and 2nd pyramids. Explanation. The most common theory is that King Menkaure built a smaller pyramid to reduce costs. But this explanation is also unconvincing because the Menkaure pyramid contains a large number of massive red granite stones, with weights reaching more than 10 tons. The red granite comes from a distance of 1,000 kilometers from Aswan, and cutting and transporting it is very difficult and costly. So I built a smaller pyramid, true, but with higher quality materials and greater cost. Why didn't they just use limestone if they wanted to save on costs? The third and final question, which was the most troubling for Robert, is why the 3rd pyramid is not aligned with the axis of the 1st and 2nd pyramids. If we draw a line passing through the center of the 1st and 2nd pyramids, we find it is off from the 3rd. It's as if the 3rd pyramid was built but not in its correct place. It was explained that this was due to the geology of the soil, which was not suitable, and that if the pyramid had been built in alignment at that location, it would have caused cracks and collapses. However, no one has provided strong evidence on this matter. For example, no one conducted a soil study and stated that there would be subsidence if the pyramid were built there. This was merely a conclusion. These are the 3 points that puzzled Robert. Why are there 3 pyramids on the Giza plateau? Why is the 3rd pyramid made smaller compared to the 1st and 2nd? Why is the 3rd pyramid not on the same axis as the 1st and 2nd pyramids? For years, Robert was puzzled by these questions and was not convinced by the existing explanations. As a civil engineer, he was certain that the design of the pyramids with these sizes and locations happened all at once according to a single design. This means that all the pyramids were drawn on one blueprint at the same time. Not that one king built them and then the next king said, I will build a pyramid next to my father's, and so on. No, all at the same time. Like when you design a residential city, you design the streets, buildings, schools, and hospital in one go. There must be a main design for the pyramids, but where is it? He couldn't find an answer until he was on a business trip for a project in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It was the weekend, so he went on a safari trip with his friends in the desert. One night, he was walking with his French friend who had knowledge of star constellations. His friend pointed out a particular constellation in the sky and told him that it consists of 3 stars, but they are not in a straight line. The smallest one is a bit further away. Robert looked at the place his friend was pointing to. His friend asked him, "What's wrong?" He replied, "I see the pyramids of Giza in the sky." Finally, Robert found the key to solving the mystery of the Orion's belt stars. Orion's belt is a constellation consisting of 3 stars and is known as the Belt of the Giant because it was part of a larger constellation known as the Giant, representing a strong person holding a club. At that moment, Robert Bauval's vision became clear because the pyramids are aligned with the Orion's belt constellation, which explained to him the sizes of the pyramids and the distances between them. The 3 stars of Orion's belt, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, are aligned in size and relative brightness with the 3 pyramids of Giza. A line passes through the center of Alnitak and Alnilam with Mintaka slightly offset, and the same applies to the pyramids of Giza. A line passes through the center of Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure with Menkaure slightly offset. This is the specific plan he was searching for, an astonishing discovery, and thus, the starting point. Robert Bauval wanted to discuss the idea with several Egyptologists, so he sent a letter to the head of the Egyptology department. At that time, at the British Museum, Dr. Harry James responded that the similarity between the pyramids and Orion was just a coincidence. Of course, it was a very kind response, but Robert didn't give up and tried again with the well-known British Egyptologist, Dr. Edwards, who got excited about the idea and encouraged him to continue his research. Robert didn't stop there. Since the pyramids of Giza were built as replicas of the Orion belt, what's to stop there from being other structures modeled after other celestial bodies? So, he studied the pyramid texts, which are a collection of the oldest sacred Egyptian texts found in the pyramids of Unas, Teti, and other pyramids in the Saqqara area. The texts are written in the inner chambers of the pyramids and talk about the king's transition to the afterlife. One of the things that caught my attention during the study of the texts is that they mentioned a path of celestial water, as if there were a river in the sky. In one part, for example, the text says in the voice of the king, "Will you carry me and lift me to the path of the winding water? Would you make me dwell among the immortal star gods?" And in another place the text says, "The winding water path has overflowed as I cross to the eastern side of the sky, to the place where the gods will give me, where I am born young again." The text spoke of a winding water path in the sky, and the king's transfer from the west to the east to live among the immortal stars. The ancients considered the stars to be the home of the gods. Many Egyptian linguists saw that what was meant by this winding water path was merely the Milky Way, which appeared as a winding river in the sky and could be seen from the ground on a night of suffering. In a very important text in the Hermetic writings, it states that Egypt is a reflection of the heavens. Most who have come across this phrase considered its meaning to be metaphorical, indicating beauty and purity and so on. However, Robert saw that it referred to a real reflection of the sky, meaning that Egypt is literally a representation of the heavens. Not just metaphorically. His study revealed that Egypt, with its 7 massive pyramids dating back to the 4th dynasty, is a reflection of the sky. The Nile River is a terrestrial representation of the Milky Way, which symbolizes a celestial river. 7 sacred places on earth are equivalent to 7 stars in the sky, depending on their size, brightness, and relative position in the Milky Way. The Abu Rawash pyramid is equivalent to the star Saif. The 3 pyramids of Giza are equivalent to Orion's belt. The Zawiat el-Aryan pyramid is equivalent to the star Bellatrix, and the Dahshur pyramid is equivalent to the stars Hyades. Thus, the intended meaning of the text of Hermes Egypt, the image of the heavens, has been achieved. The ancient Egyptians particularly revered the constellation Orion, which they called Sahul, and the hare, which they called Sopdet, because its appearance was associated with the flooding of the Nile, the life-giving river of Egypt. From an astronomical perspective, the star Sirius is linked to the Orion constellation, which appears before it. In terms of beliefs, the star Sirius is associated with Isis, while Orion is linked to Osiris, and the stars of the twins are associated with Set, who killed Osiris in the well-known myth. This theory leads to a very important conclusion. The pyramids were not built in isolation as we once thought, but their design was conceived with the same mindset at the same time, and they were part of a grand engineering plan grounded in religious beliefs and spatial considerations, and a very precise understanding of the conditions of the cosmos. From the very first day, it was designed to have 7 pyramids in these locations, under one project umbrella, designed to be built at the same time. But the execution could take many years, 100 years or 200 years, more or less. That's the problem. So the idea that King Khufu decided to build a pyramid on the Giza plateau, and then Khafre decided to build his pyramid next to it, and so on, with each one designing and building his pyramid in the shape and dimensions he sees fit, is a story that clearly isn't true. The idea that the pyramid, there was a mistake in the corners of the curve. It happened during the construction, so the red pyramid was built. It is also clear that it was impossible. We will see as the episodes pass that there is no such thing as a mistake or coincidence, and that the things recorded in the books as mistakes in design or construction are not mistakes, but they were designed to be this way. It was actually intended to have two pyramids in the sky. The red pyramid is equivalent to the star Aldebaran, and the bent pyramid is equivalent to the star Al-Ain from the constellation Aldebaran. The star Aldebaran is defined in references as a red giant, because over millions of years, the hydrogen in it turned into helium, and this transformation was accompanied by a significant increase in temperature that caused its surface to turn red. Do you think it's a coincidence that the pyramid corresponds to the red star Aldebaran? The rest of the pyramids are built with limestone that has a reddish tint, which is why we called it the Red Pyramid. I certainly don't think it's a coincidence, and everything was subject to a precise design. After extensive research on the pyramids and their relationship with the stars, Robert published his theory in a scientific journal called Discussions in Egyptology. He felt that he had done his part in linking the pyramids to the stars and decided to stop at certain points. However, a very small observation will open the door to discovering the greatness of the age of the pyramids. We'll see you in the next episode, God willing.